Hey everyone, Dan here. We are near market close on Thursday, July 22nd. Today we're going to take a look at Jumia. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also, please keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, ideas. Do not consider them or misconstrue them as trading or investment advice in any way. Do your own due diligence and make your own decisions based on your own information. All right, so Jumia dropping pretty heavily today on relatively low volume, just over 2 million. And like I said, we're nearing close here. We're just less than a half an hour before close, so we're certainly not going to make this 3-month average over 5 million. And so these low volume dropping days to me are sort of like pretty prevalent in the market right now, and can easily see some clawing back from them. That said, looking at the chart here, you see the steep drop off that Jumia has had in recent months, but we also see the volume here dwindling down. Now if I switch this over to the daily, we can sort of get a better sense. Volume overall has been down quite a bit. The tops of these areas have sort of stretched into the 3-month average volume, and then anything below that, certainly below that blue line, coming in at really, really low volume. So we did see 3 recent green days that were also still relatively low volume. So to me, a sell-off today, being that it's pretty low volume, not anything wildly concerning, especially since it's coming down to this 2219 support area. That said, if we take a look at like the 3-month chart here, we do see the distress that Jumia overall has been in since it had run-ups earlier in the year. And these price targets that I have here, coming from that time frame, obviously down from nearly $70 at one point. Was this in February? Yeah, February 10th, and then subsequently dropping down in May to under $18. So a pretty crazy drop for Jumia. Now, these zones that I have here, this 1950 to me was sort of like an obvious cut loss zone that lined up previous support and resistance here in previous price activity. And then, right now it's just a price level above that, trying to maintain support at this 2222 level. To me, the next area to be looking at is at 2711, if it can get some momentum moving here. Now, I think this $32 is going to be extra important to watch. My bullish hope for this move this time around, if it can make another attempt up here at this 32.42 area, would be that it has exhausted all of the selling pressure that we've seen in the last 3 attempts to breach that zone, and that selling pressure has come down enough that it'll be able to find its way through that price point this time around. But that said, it has to get through that 27 price zone first. Now, if we pull this back out to a month, can take a look at some of the indicators and also sort of like some of the trend line that I'm looking at the moment. So a couple of things. Like one, there is, I'll put this there and then I'll take it away, but this will just be to illustrate the point. But there is a channel here, right? And this channel has been tested on the upper bound, 4 or 5 times, and on the lower bound 3 times. So typically that would be considered, pretty solid, currently sustaining channel. That said, my concern with it is sort of this channel within a channel situation that it has going on, whereby you see it almost has like this upper trend line where most of the price action is happening, and then it's having these very rapid, steep drop-offs. And it is good that even though they're rapid and steep, that they're getting caught in higher and higher zones. That said, I just don't love the sort of frequency and the, I guess, just how jolted that is from sort of maintaining its the high point on the channel and then falling very abruptly through it. So to me, I'm looking more actually at this trend line here. So instead of playing a channel, which are my favorite things to play, so it takes a lot for me to say, hey, I'm actually not going to play that channel in this situation. I'm actually looking more at around this area here, this trend line, sort of flagging out here, probably closer to around there if we lop those tops off. And so what I'm looking for is, is it going to remain in this sort of flag pattern? And then if so, what's it going to do when it pops out of here, which would happen by July 27th? That is, even if it can maintain itself in here for that amount of time. And if it does, to me, it looks like it will probably come down and test that 2219 area again. An if it's maintaining a nice walk up here, then maybe it does more develop in this channel, and there isn't this sort of like sense of an upper part of the channel and a lower part of the channel that are kind of acting totally separately. You have these nice sustained areas on the upper side and these very chaotic free falls on the downside. So if it does that, maybe it could establish more in the channel. But to me, I'm looking at this potential flagging out pattern and seeing what it does there. Let's take a quick look at the indicators, and then we can go ahead and take a look at the data, kind of see what some of the data is saying. I'm going to do the indicators on the daily just to kind of get a better sense and sort of like pull in some of this crazy price activity that we've seen in Jumia over the last several months. So on the MACD side of things, we are looking right now at a potential bullish crossover, obviously getting some pushback on that today. And now the question is, can this bearish momentum continue to die down, or is it going to sort of do one of these things that we see every so often? I don't see it really back here in the recent history in Jumia, but what we do see in some stocks is it does this fake out where it kind of comes down and then catches another wind and comes down again. Now if it did that, obviously it would break this lower trend line, and then we'd be wondering if it's going to hold that 2219 support. So that would be the question there. But that's just based on the red candlestick from today. However, taking that out of the equation, MACD well below the baseline right now and signaling a bullish crossover. So as long as that continues to reduce the real estate between the MACD and the signal line, we get a bullish crossover there and would go ahead and start an upswing. Now you see here, for example, when it had this upswing, it just got itself just slightly over the baseline and then peeled back down, and that's where it double topped out and couldn't hold the buying pressure. So I would look for a much larger swing. If this does have a bullish crossover and swings up, and it is going to work itself out of this flagging pattern and not sell off, what I'm going to be looking for is the histogram on the bullish side to reach higher than this previous histogram area. So this would bring the MACD somewhere to like the 1 or 1+ range over the baseline. On the RSI side of things, right now it's coming back a little bit, and what I'm going to be looking for is what happens as it approaches the midline. It's had a really hard time recently coming up to the midline, and when it has, it's worked itself not even into overbought territory. It's come up here, which is still just 60, so still quite a bit of run room to get itself to overbought territory. And right now it's just not even being able to work itself up there. Typically the midline is what I look at, but honestly with this, it's even more of a question of like, can it hit and hold 40 and sort of like establish itself over the 40 mark on the RSI and work itself from there. But definitely having a tough time with all of the selling pressure that it's seen. Now the MAs obviously in a bearish formation, currently the 200 on top with the 50 and the 20 underneath in that order, and the 20 recently crossed over, had its bearish crossover, so it's doing a bit of this bobbing and weaving. Especially if it comes back up again, that'll be the question. If it comes back up again, does it just kind of continue to weave, and this could be signaling sort of like a consolidation period? The alternate option here is that it works itself out of this flagging pattern just by relatively moving sideways and then continues to consolidate in this area. Now let's take a quick look at the data. Jumia, I can talk about this more when we get close to the date, sort of like what folks will be looking for and what will sort of be seen as victories or defeats for the August 11th earnings announcement. That said, keep in mind that these are always estimated dates provided by an algorithm, actually, and so just pay attention the days leading up to August 11th for like info coming from Jumia, the company, to confirm or move the date of August 11th. I think that they're saying in the pre-market, if I'm recalling correctly, but keep your eye on that in case it gets moved. The other side of things, I didn't realize this, but Jumia actually does have, reported by Ortex today, current short interest percentage of the free float, 17.25 almost, and that's peeling back a little bit from yesterday, but that is pretty high. I mean, anything over 20 I consider very, very high in terms of short interest as a percentage of the free float, and historically speaking, anything over 10, even that was sort of like, this could get squirrely. So definitely approaching 20 is a lot, and it wouldn't be surprising that shorts would be jumping in, trying to kind of kick it while it's down, essentially, like take advantage of all of the selling pressure that it's seen, all of the sort of FUD in the marketplace as it regards to Jumia. And so, that said, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to come in kind of heavily. Also on that side of things, you did have Morgan Stanley, although they maintained equal weight on Jumia, they lowered their price target to 21, and I think that was from 32. From 32 to 21. So a pretty sizable kick in the pants there from Morgan Stanley on the outlook for Jumia, and obviously that has not helped it make its case to retrace and regain some of the losses that it suffered this year. So speaking of analysts, just to kind of round things out and take a last look, TipRank's reporting no buys, no sells, just 4 holds coming in, and even then just a consensus price target of 22.33, which should give it almost another 3% downside. So that said, I do think that earnings will shed a bunch of light, will sort of give us the next best opportunity for something, I guess, for some clarifying data on Jumia that comes from like a real source and not just sort of a pure speculative, I was going to say nonsense, but sometimes speculation is right, of course, or pretty spot on. But that is what I'm looking for. These price targets to me are still very, very much in play and still holding up, even though I've had this chart in play for several months. I still think that it is valid. And now I'm looking at these trend lines and then mostly paying attention to this white box as it approaches there, because while I'm hoping that it's exhausted all of the selling pressure, we do also see that it's been making slightly lower highs every time it's approached it there. So what it does in that box to me will be super, super telling. All right, well, good luck if you're in Jumia. If you end up jumping in, I wish you the best, and no matter what you're trading, I hope you're having a really good week so far. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.